Welcome to Haunt Weekly. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the haunted attraction hunter entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And we return to you once again, I guess what is now part 4 of our interview series we've been on. We've been on an interview glut lately, and I
Yes.
love it. Getting people that are actually smart on this podcast for a change. Getting intelligent people for once. I know. Breaking the norm of Haunt Weekly. And indeed, we are continuing the trend again, but this time we're bringing podcasters on. What?
We've had podcasters
I
before.
know, we have. But this time around, we have the wonderful Jared and Teddy from Code Yellow. How are you guys doing?
We need an applause there.
Yeah, we need an applause button. I need an applause button on this. Yay! So, Teddy and Jared, how are you two doing?
Good, man. Good. Thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you for being here. And I love having podcasters on as guests because their stuff is always square away. Even if we're amateur hour, they always have their stuff together. It's great.
Yeah.
It's so nice. Thank you guys for coming on. A lot of stuff to talk about and go over.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's kick off. Who are you guys?
Yeah, who the hell are you two?
Who are you?
What are you doing on my screen?
I guess we're just a couple of actor trainers. And yeah, I think that's it. We train actors, we act. Teddy makes costumes. I fuck around. Oh,
don't worry about it. No, we have an explicit tag. You're fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. We put it on because I hate editing and I don't know how to not fuck. Say fuck. So.
All right, good deal. So yeah, we're just general all-arounders and started a podcast.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about that podcast then. Yeah, tell us about the podcast.
That sounds about right. So we are 2 of the 4 members of Code Yellow. We are the founding members. We started this 3 years. I have no idea when we started Code Yellow.
It's been like 3 or 4 years now.
Well, 2020 adds years.
No, 2020 was 10 years long. So technically your podcast has been 13 years now. I mean, congratulations, 13 years.
Yeah.
Sounds good. But yeah, we started Code Yellow for, the primary purpose was for education. We felt that haunt education in specific was kind of unavailable to a lot of people, and we wanted to give a lot of what we've learned over, I think combined we're at like 26 years in the industry. We wanted to give like a bit of insight into newer people and also try to relieve the tension of the people that may be interested in the industry but don't know how to start. So that's kind of how it started, and then from there we just expanded and we brought in more people and we did a lot of interviews and just tried to get the general haunt actor experience out in the open for everybody. Whether that gets us in trouble or not, I don't know. It has a couple times.
Yeah.
After 270-ish episodes of this, it gets you in trouble.
Yeah. Well, they know that too. Oh
yeah.
Yeah. But because you're 30 haunters in 30 days was insane.
Yeah, what the hell were y'all thinking?
Like, we do this weekly, but that's a schedule that would intimidate me even.
That was a fever dream.
Yeah, that was...
I've heard of Hell Week, but not Podcast Hell Month.
Yeah, that was all me getting laid off from my job and being hopped up on Gary Vaynerchuk books. So I was like, let's be ambitious. Let's do 30 podcasts in 30 days. And
usually got laid off from my job and hopped up ends way worse in a sentence, though.
I was trying to stay motivated, so I was reading all those business self-help books, and it gave me wacky ideas, so we went for it.
Well,
it was awesome.
It seemed to work. Yeah, I listened to quite a few of those when they were coming out. So tell us some about your background in the haunt industry specifically. Like, how long have you been doing it? What are different jobs? That kind of thing.
Man, so I think this is my 12th or 13th year. I'm bad at math, but I started in 2007, so you guys can add that up. I started as just an actor. I had a strong theater background. and I got started because I was going through a bad breakup right when I around that time, and my buddy was just like, "Hey, come out to this haunted house thing. It's a blast." I didn't even like haunted houses, and he said, "No, it's really fun. Trust me." And I never looked back. It's my first night in. I was like, "This is incredible," and so I've been doing that, and I just love acting. It completely replaced theater for me because it's just so interactive. And yeah, I fell in love, and here we are, all these years later.
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of theater people that they get into haunting and they get sucked in by the interactivity of it and the in the momentness of it, so to speak. The, you're not reading a script, and okay,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. And
No, you're good. Honestly, I feel like it's like 50-50. Sometimes theater people love it. Sometimes they just hate it. It's really weird. But for me, I was also a theater kid and I loved it. I started in 2014, however long that is for everybody. I
You're
also
before
started
that.
as an actor. Huh?
You were well before
Whoa,
that.
wait, sorry, 2004. My bad. 2004.
I'm sitting there running the numbers in my head, like
No, 2004 was my first year. Started at a little haunted house as an actor. Over the years, Jared and I have both been casting directors, managers, general managers, everything you can think of, costuming, detail, build, all everything you can do in the industry other than selling Morris costume contracts. But so we've done a lot, especially in our local area. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's about it.
I think, just to gas us up a little more, I think because of that theater background, our haunted house kind of took off within the community because, and I guess that's today's topic, community, right?
Yes.
Our area was not very community friendly. It was very much these other haunts are out to get our secrets. We don't play with other haunts. And through our wacky immersive theater experience at the haunted house, other haunt owners took notice and started to reach out to us and talk to us. And that was the first real community that we ever got. And through them gassing us up, we were able to kind of angle ourselves as trainers. And our whole long con in the haunt industry is to teach the people who need it the most, actors, theater techniques to up their game and make them better haunt actors and in the grand scheme of things.
It's interesting. We were speaking with someone earlier in the year that wanted to teach wrestling techniques. So the same concept, the acting, the selling, and all that. So yeah, it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think these are all things actors can learn from.
No.
So yeah, what on God's, and I say this as a podcaster, so you know where I'm coming from with this next question. What on God's earth possessed you to start a podcast?
So way back, I guess in like 2011, I started a podcast with my then co-director Corey and our friend Brad, who worked at a radio station. He got asked to start a podcast for the local radio station. It was right as podcasts started to get big, and he wanted to do one on haunted houses, so he asked us to be his co-hosts, and we started one called Return of the Living Podcast, and that ran for years and years, and then we quit because they kind of got out of the haunted house game, and we got tired. And then a few years later, I was listening to old episodes of ours, and I was like, "Holy crap, this is great! No matter how bad life gets, I have all of these recordings of me hanging out with my friends to look back on." And just the joy that brought me made me miss podcasting. And I was living with Teddy at the time, and I said, "Dude, let's do something but more educational," because Return of the Living Podcast was more like the Howard Stern of the haunt industry. We got ourselves into lots of trouble with our big mouths, and I wanted to do something more on the level and more just educational based, where I wouldn't make, I still make Alan Hoff's blood, but I want to like do something that everybody can listen to and that you can learn stuff from instead of just a haunted house comedy hour.
Well, there are some people in the haunt industry, if you're not angering them, you haven't done anything. So that's just truth.
Yeah. I actually went back earlier today and listened to your episode.
Yeah, I haven't seen
where
her
you
all
got-
day. This is the first time I've seen her.
Yeah, where you got everybody together back in June, the height of the Black Lives Matter movement or awareness, because they still matter. You know,
Still matter, yes.
It's-
And the movement still is going on.
Yeah.
But the height of the, I guess, the protest.
Yeah.
The active protest, yeah.
Yeah, that was a rough one to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot to talk
But
about.
it was important and it was good, and I thank you all for doing it, actually.
Yeah, I think that was episode 64. So if you,
Yeah, I was trying to get an episode
if
number.
everybody hasn't listened to it, definitely check out that and check out the others. I know that you've had a lot of, during that 30 days with 30 Haunters, you've had a lot of great interviews, including some people we know, and it's really good information. And I like that you chose with Code Yellow to go in the educational direction, because I remember Night of the Living podcast. I listened to a couple of episodes, but it wasn't really for me at the time. So, but I do like that you continue to stir the pot, because it needs it needs that every once in a while. We need that to help the community grow. You know?
Yeah, I think it's hard to be in that seat. And I realized that was kind of what I didn't like. Was I wanted a place to voice my opinion, but I didn't want to anger people anymore. So I think it's been a good turn. I mean, we haven't gotten any crazy backlash yet. I think the worst review we got was somebody that got mad at us for not knowing who I'm gonna mess up his name. Scott Swanson.
Swenson.
Yeah.
We didn't know who he was. It was like our first time. They reached out to us to talk to him about his book, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then his book was awesome, and he's awesome, and his podcast is great too. So it's like somebody was like, how dare you not know
who that is? Rebel.
Yeah, I'm in Indiana, man. I don't know anybody.
Yeah, I know when we started Haunt Weekly, I mean, we knew pretty much everyone in like the local Louisiana haunt community, but it was an educational experience. Like we knew people local. We knew like Larry Kirchner or Leonard Pickle. We knew those names too. You couldn't duck them if you tried.
Yeah.
But outside that, yeah, we had a lot of learning to do. And you go back to those first episodes, I'm sure we said similar things multitudes of times. And that's why we did 270 episodes, was to bury the early ones underneath a pile of hopefully better stuff. It's a strategy.
I would like to think we've grown over the years.
We definitely have grown over the years.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
So if someone's looking to get into haunt acting, what's some advice that you could give them? What do they need?
This is like a kind of a plug, but I just want to throw it out there because it's
Plug
a resource
away.
that's available.
It's your hour.
The Finpuss Haunt Actors Guide is a really good thing, and it's not really it is for beginner actors, but it is a great resource to be a little bit introspective as to what you want to do and how far you want to go. So I would say, like, if they still have that on their website, I'm sure they do. It's like a zine. It's like very cheap. You can get it. It's a really good read and gives you like a lot of like worksheet style stuff to kind of go through. But other than that, that's like the only like thing that I could imagine that you would want to start with, other than like just do it.
Yeah, you just kind of have to do it. Everybody's got the photograph of themselves with a whiteout face and raccoon eyes. Every single one of us has that photo in their backlog. Like, I mean, we all started the same place. We were all terrible. You just have to get in there and do it. But yeah, I mean, consume. Listen to this podcast. Listen to, anything you can get your hands on. Alan Hops. If you see Jape's Palace, this is my biggest tip.
Yeah.
If you're in the haunt groups and you see Jape's post, listen, stop and read his posts.
Yeah.
Jape's is the smartest haunt dude I know.
You know we're huge marks for Japes around this part. These parts here. We will mark out for Japes at any moment in time.
Same. I stand hard for Japes.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that and it's still a mistake that a lot of haunters make now. I mean, we travel to haunts and train all in the off season, and we see a lot of different communities functioning in a lot of different ways. And one thing that misses from a lot of them is they don't take advantage of the fact that there is an open source community.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff you can learn from the internet, and you can really get a broader picture on what exactly haunting is just by going to the groups, even if some of them are just asinine, like just going and absorbing, maybe not taking a part of it. I don't comment on things in Haunters Hangout or anything like that. It's not really my thing. But I do read it, and sometimes there's some gems in there and, all over the place that, you can just soak in a lot of information. I encourage anybody that wants to get into haunted houses to take advantage of the fact that we have the internet and a community that where it was like 75% of the people want to help in some way.
And that's something us old bastards remember, because that wasn't always there.
No, not at all.
I remember a time in which haunts were ruled by secrecy. Don't tell anyone how we do things. We don't want the competition to know. Blah, 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 blah. And then I think Garage of Evil was really like the first open source place that sort of cropped up. It was a forum, and they showed a lot of how-tos on builds. It was more build-oriented stuff, but still it had some acting stuff too. And that sort of kick-started this, like you said, the open source movement of haunting, where now you have Haunters Hangout, now you have not just Haunters, you have tons of Facebook groups, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on for weeks.
Yeah, and Haunters Hangout is not without its problems.
No, it definitely has its problems.
Yeah.
But there's all these great groups. There's this open source movement. That's something that did not exist, I would say, 15, 20 years ago even.
Yeah.
Probably it's that recent.
I think it's more recent than that.
Yeah, probably. Well, 2020 rules again.
Yeah, I think the first time I remember interacting with the haunted house community at large was like 2010, and it was on a post where everybody was complaining because Transworld initiated a ticket price to like $25 or something.
Oh God!
And everybody lost their collective minds. It was
great. You naive 2010 people, all of you.
Yeah, I would say it really didn't actually super pop off until Facebook was prevalent, when it was your main source of social media. So yeah, there was definitely nothing like that when we started that we knew of, and we're in a super congested area. And, we have like 15 or 20 haunts within a 20-minute drive. And it's, there was definitely no communication, with us, like between the haunts that we had. I think my first year in 2004, my haunt owner was like, "Hey, we're going to go to another haunted house for free." I was like, "Cool." And like after that moment, he was like, it took 2 weeks, and he was like, "We don't like those guys anymore. We're never doing that. We're not talking to other haunted houses." But I was like, "Dang, that was quick." So then it took another almost decade to get somewhere where we were actually working with other haunts. So
and even then, I think Brett Hayes from Fear Fair in Indiana broke us out of that shell single-handedly. But even then, Teddy and our friend Tad went up there to do a haunt thing. In their initial, I think it was just a walk through, but just to show you how ingratiated we were in that combative attitude, I think their first move was to feel like they needed to get in costume and one up all their actors. So like it was still very combative even then.
I just realized the first time I ever went to a haunt for free because we worked at another haunt was the time I got a concussion.
Yeah.
Not a good introduction to that idea. Yeah, that was about 10 years ago again though.
Yeah, well, and it was interesting because at that time one of the haunts in New Orleans area was not letting other haunters come in.
No.
For like
anything.
Yeah, you basically were paying customers if you went to that haunt, and they weren't talking to other
even
owners
then they would
or
sometimes
anything like that.
try to spot you on the way in and
Yeah, but they
give you the biz.
Yeah, but they've changed their ways.
Yes,
so that's
and,
good.
and I think that's been good for the whole haunt community, because one of the things we've tried to press on this podcast is haunts are not competition to each other's.
Right.
We are in competition with that rock festival going on across town that you could be going to, or the movie theater you could be going to that night, a myriad of other entertainment activities. I mean, and it's like used car lots. Have you ever noticed how like car lots always open up next door to each other? There's like a street, like 20 of them. And that's because they know that nobody goes to just one car lot. Nobody goes to just one haunt. Mm-hmm. If you're going haunting, you're going haunting. That's just the way it be.
I think we all work better when we work together
Agreed.
and when we lift each other up, because I think the the only competition that really gets you is are bad haunts. This sounds mean, so I apologize in advance,
No.
but if you take the time to elevate the bad haunts in your area or the haunts that aren't doing as well, you're going to benefit from that, because we took a poll with the scare factor kind of in our local area. It's all anecdotal. We just asked all our friends, but we reached hundreds of people. And the biggest reason people didn't want to go through haunted houses is because they went to the Shitty Woods haunt a few years ago. It cost them $40 a ticket, and they had a really bad experience. So they didn't want to go to the big haunted house in town that also had a $40 ticket, even though it's a great experience. So that's how we get people, is we lift each other up so that
Hmm.
people go through your haunted house, they have a great time, and then they go, what's next? Where do we go now? What other haunted house is
Pull
10
out your
miles
phone.
away?
What's next? What's within driving distance?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think both low quality haunts and also unsafe haunts really hurt the haunt industry. They hurt you more than anything. Unsafe haunts, especially, because
Yeah, they just piss me off.
they
Both.
piss me off to no end.
And you can guarantee that that unsafe haunt is going to get on the news
Oh yeah.
at some point. Like, it's just like, even if it's like a 5-minute run of like crazy thing happens at the local haunted house, only thing people hear is haunted house bad. That's
Yeah.
all they hear, and that just hurts everybody. So that's part of the reason why we started Code Yellow is we want to provide, something that a lot of people have either put behind a paywall or they just weren't sharing, for everybody to have, because the more good haunts we have, the more money we all make, and that just is the end of
That's
the
a
story.
very good point.
Mhm.
So if you're starting out and looking for a haunt to join, how do you determine what's a good haunt from a bad haunt?
Well, I don't, that's I don't know if we should talk about that.
Why?
Okay. No,
I think it's
It's
just
okay.
you have to try. Like,
Yeah.
one, I would say the haunt that your friends work at is the best haunt to start at. If you have friends that work at one, that's where to go first.
Agree.
Because I feel like when you're doing from an actor trainer and a director standpoint, when you're interviewing people to work at a haunted house, you're kind of interviewing somebody to be part of a family with. And I
Mhm.
really, just to get this out of the way, I really hate haunt family stuff. We can get into that later.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it, but it's true, because you're going to be up this person's ass for 2 months. So
Mhm.
you need to, it needs to be somebody that you can be around and that you can trust and work with.
I
So
agree.
when you're at a haunted house interview, you need to be looking at the same things. Do these people seem nice? Does this seem like a place I can work? Is the toilet clean? Are there rusty nails in the floor? Like, pay attention to those things, because that tells. I mean, you
Do I
can
want to
walk
spend
in.
time here?
Yeah, do I want to spend time here? Is this where I want to be? Is this what made me? Does this haunt offer what made me happy the first time I went through a haunted house?
Yeah,
No.
I think there are a lot of warning signs right out of the gate of what makes a bad haunted house, and there are just a couple of. I mean, because at the end of the day, your first season at a haunted house, you're only going to know so much. We're a little bit jaded in the fact that we've been running haunted houses for like 10 of our 15 years in the industry,
Mhm.
that we don't necessarily see the veil anymore. But I can kind of remember back when I started at a haunted house, there was like this just big ignorant is bliss thing going on. Like, man, this pizza's great. And like I can, and that rusty nail caught me, but that's
This
okay.
dollar
Yeah.
Walmart pizza is great.
I sure do love that $5 Circle K certificate I got for working last week.
Oh, you got the $5 one, huh? Oh, you got the nice stuff, then didn't you?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but I think the most important thing is making a connection with your immediate supervisors and management team when you first start,
Mhm.
is because then that kind of teaches you or lets you know, it's kind of indicator of like, will they have your back when you need to. And if you feel comfortable with someone having your back as a management team or as a leader or as a supervisor, section lead, whatever, then you know that if you are doing something wrong, then they will actually let you know and help you improve.
And on the flip side, if something happens where you
Mhm.
need their support, like a customer goes ape shit or something, then you know they got your back then too.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard horror stories about management teams like treating their actors like they're second-rate citizens, and that's not cool because they are literally the only reason you make money unless you have a multi-million-dollar haunted museum. So
Yeah.
I think
Note
that's
to self: open multi-million-dollar haunted museum.
I mean, I know of one that exists now, but it does well and
Mhm.
it does great. So it's I think that as an actor going into, as Jared said, we don't necessarily do the whole like haunt family thing as much, but we there is something there. Like there is a way to tell that when you connect with your other actors, you make sure you feel that same connection with the leadership.
Mhm.
And once you have that, I think you found that haunt for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should feel like fun. It should not be like you're going to your crappy office job at the cable company or whatever. I think that the best advice any manager ever gave me, or not even best advice, I guess, but I had a manager when I was pretty young in a high school job look at me and say, "My job as your manager is to have your back. So if you ever need help or you don't know what's happening, ask me. I'm here to have your back." And I really hope that I convey that to the people that work for me, and that I want my kids to succeed. I want them to have fun, but I want them to be successful. I want to win awards, and I want to do all that fun stuff. I want us to be the best we can be. And
Mhm.
I've got your back. Yeah, if you're messing up, I'm going to tell you. That doesn't mean they shouldn't reprimand you, because you're going to do dumb things. You're going to be stupid and make mistakes. But it means that when they reprimand you, they say it's okay. We'll get them next time. Try this. Try this instead. They shouldn't talk down to you.
Yeah.
That's the big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think that so I don't so I have this idea that isn't fully formed, so I'm going to put it out in random order. Is that I've noticed that the haunts that hold auditions versus the haunts that you can show up to and start working that night, and your civilian clothes, you went to it as a customer. Um, I think there's a big difference in how it's structured as a business and how they would have that in place. Those fail safes and those rules for how to handle things.
Yeah.
I feel blessed. I've never heard of a haunted house that doesn't hold auditions. So
That's
like
the
a lot
only
of
kind we've worked in.
Yeah.
Oh my
I've
goodness.
never gone through a audition in what has got to be now 20 years of haunting.
No.
No, 22 years?
Yeah, I guess that
Mm.
says that we probably wouldn't pass one.
That's kind of rough.
Yeah.
I think that some auditions are more likes than others, but I think that's a very huge thing, especially
No,
around our
our very
area.
first experience of haunting, we went through as customers, and we knew some of the people. And then you said haunt your friends work at
Mhm.
the best one. Okay, the story of how we got involved in haunting. This is a weird story to finally be telling 270 episodes in,
Mhm.
but here you go. We were walking down the street one night, and a truck is going by, and they're honking their horn and blaring it at us. And all of a sudden, we see someone like leap out of the back of it and come running toward us. And it was our friend Gwen we hadn't seen in eons.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh God, it's Jonathan! You got to come to the haunted house that we're at. We're at this haunted house. We're doing this and that and da da da." I'm like, "Okay, we'll come check it out." Jesus Christ, you just scared the living crap out of us, and not in a good way. Not in a haunted house way. And so we go to this haunted house that was a Boy Scout charity haunt.
Mhm.
And this was 98, 99, sometime like that. It was before 2000. It might have been 2000.
No, it was after 2000.
No, okay, we were at it. Okay,
It was 2000,
It
2001.
was circa 2000, though.
Yeah.
Circa 2000. We go there, we go to the haunt, and it was a dead night. It was like early in season. So
Yeah.
it was like there was like 3 people and a goat going there. So we go through, and we asked to go through again. They said, just fine, don't worry about it. Don't get another ticket, go through again. And then hey, do you need help working here? Because we were actually really enthralled with it. And like a lot of our friends were here,
Mhm.
and we started working. And yeah, that haunt was horrible, by the way. They did nothing right. Like, absolutely. I am surprised they were not sued. I'm surprised there was not assault charges against this haunt, personally. Like, so much wrong in that haunt. So much I've learned better
Yeah.
since. But that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, it's that thing of we got brought in by our friends,
Mhm.
admittedly doing dangerous stunts out of the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And then going in and doing the haunt. But yeah, we've never had a haunt audition. The haunts we've always volunteered at or worked at have always been just, hey, come as you are, and we've got spots for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there like a lot of the haunts here, including ours. I mean, they do kind of do that, sort of. The difference is now, especially with COVID and stuff.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
We've moved. My haunt has moved everything to e-learning because my significant other is a teacher, so we moved everything to e-learning. So in order to work, you have to take safety training. It's like an hour-long course on the internet.
Thank
So
you.
if they come up and they're like, "Hey, we really want to work here," we're like, "Yeah, we got spots for you. Do this class, or you're not coming." Like, so
Thank
we at
you.
least make them go through safety training. Anything after that, we're good. But of course, you always start your season with an audition, so you
Yeah.
know where people excel. We're not going to get into that, but yeah,
No,
I think
no. Okay, not only did that first home we go to not have safety training, we had real weapons.
Yeah.
And
We were
very untrained and very, very like I was probably the best person to be handling them, and that's not
I
a
feel
good
like I worked
sign
at that
when
one.
I'm the best and most qualified.
yeah, we definitely worked at a haunt that had real weapons.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of hate like even though our whole thing, our whole deal is to did we lose Teddy? Oh no.
I'm here.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
okay.
okay.
But I
He's
think
here in audio only.
all right. So I feel like even though our whole con is to teach haunt people theater techniques, I kind of hate where the theater techniques have taken over parts of haunts, like the word auditions. Because
Mhm.
really, what we do when we do an audition is that we're just doing an interview to one weed out ghouls. Because I think that that's something that our
Okay,
industry,
what is a ghoul? Define a ghoul for the audience,
yeah.
real fast.
So our industry attracts predators by nature, and maybe this is something that people don't want to hear. So again, sorry
No.
if I offend you.
We're the.
But
Have you seen this podcast? This is
Yeah.
the podcast
No.
that things people don't want to hear.
but I think that we attract the people that have a favorite serial killer, right? Like really worship like weird things and think that this is a place I can go and oh, this haunt's a touch haunt, so I'm just gonna be grabbing boobies and like all this other stuff. And that's not cool. And I want to catch
Mhm.
those people before it ever becomes a problem, and I want to make sure they don't even make it into the door. So that's the biggest reason that I think we should have interviews and screening process before you let people into your haunt to catch these weird people and stop them from harassing your actors and your customers. And then from there, we have training really to just find out where everybody's at and what they're good at and see things from there. A lot of times Teddy and I'll make people do random stuff at auditions just to be like, we do need a girl that can scream right now. Like, okay, this person's good. We already have a spot in mind for you. So I don't think it's a true audition though. At least as far as we go, it's always, hey, how are you? Where are you from?
And
Why
that
do you
makes a
want to
lot of
work at a
sense.
haunted house?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of call it a glorified vibe check, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's literally
Vibe
that.
check. Okay,
Mhm.
now
I
what?
like that.
I propose we change the term from audition to vibe check.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And-
it's a really good thing, and like he said, we use auditions to really or
Vibe
actor training
checks.
rather.
Hello, we just
Yeah,
changed the name.
we use vibe checks to kind of weed out, and it kind of makes us sound a little judgmental. But to be fair, to keep my kids safe, I am judgmental,
Yeah.
right out of the gate towards people, just because it is a big problem, and it definitely needs to be curbed somehow. So it might as well start with us. But
It's so
Exactly.
true. Sorry, like the only places that it's acceptable for a grown ass man to hang out with a teenager are like magic shops, punk rock, and haunted houses. Like, and it's so weird. We need to start gate checking these dynamics, right?
yeah, and then moving past that
acceptable, punk
through
rock?
our actor training, our actor training is considerably longer because that is basically we do between 4 and 6 weeks of actor training, so we use that as a 4 to 6 week long audition process, basically. Right fitting people into roles that they need to go in and stuff. And that also is another vibe check because you learn more about people that are dedicated to coming to those auditions than you ever would during the show. Because during the show we're running and we're doing 6,000 different things, filling fog machines, blah blah blah, and we can't keep our eyes on our actors the whole time. So auditions is the chance where Jared and I can sit down one-on-one with every single actor we have, learn strengths and weaknesses, and vibe check them and be like, if there's an issue arises, we had 4 weeks to figure that out before we open. So I think that's a really good thing that more haunts should do. So we
I
have
agree.
less awkward posts on Haunter Hangout calling people out.
And I think
Yeah.
it's also a good opportunity to sit one-on-one with people, because I know, at least for me, I have resting dad face is what I call it. So once business season starts, once there are paying customers in the door, I just look like an asshole. I'm terrifying. Like, actors do not approach me. That's why we have Teddy. Like, I do not. So it's good for me to sit down with people before season starts so that they can get to know me and know that I don't hate them. And that we can share some laughs and get over that hump before season starts, and
Yeah.
I start giving everybody dad face. That's
Yeah.
what they call it.
That's where our community starts. So
I
it has
have
to be important.
RBF, so I understand completely.
I just wear a mask during haunt time,
Yeah.
so my face doesn't actually matter. Another term you said you hate once upon a time, at least one in your podcast, was the haunt family, or at least you want to redefine, is haunt family. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
And what
Yeah.
can we call it instead?
Yeah, and what's the alternative?
I don't know that there is an alternative. I like it in theory, and I think that it's a great start. Where I hate it is the double standard of it, and it's kind of getting everybody into trouble with the world events today. And we're just starting to really face this in the haunted house community. And the reason I hate it is, I guess I'll just tell my story. So when I started haunting, I was a worship leader, I was a youth minister, and I was in a fairly successful local band at the time. So was kind of sneered at by people. I feel like the haunted house community as a whole sees itself as like a home for misfits. It's like the Lost Boys kind of thing, right? You don't fit in, so you go work at a haunted house, and that's where you fit in. And we don't want normies here. They hate us. They pick on us in high school. And I'm going back to those high school vibes here for this description. So
Mhm.
bear with me before we get to like the adult world where none of this stuff matters. But initially, for me as a teenager, when I started haunted house stuff, that's how it was. And so when I started, it was weird to me. Like, I feel like people picked on me and kind of pushed me out. They didn't want me there because I had, I think a lot of haunted house people are probably atheist, which that's, at least in our area, that's where it was. We're in the Bible Belt. So a lot of these misfits tend to be atheist and things like that. And so I've definitely felt a little crapped on when I started. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Even Teddy thought I was a jerk when we first met, but it was just because I was quiet. I
And
was
Teddy's
scared to
nodding
talk.
away.
Yeah, I was scared to talk to people. And I remember one of our main like maintenance guy at the haunt we worked at. I was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You're too normal and quiet. I don't like it." And I was like, okay.
The
So
shit that commenced after that barrier was broken was insane. But anyways,
yeah, and I think once you get over that hump, it's weird to me to be in the flip flop now to the people that made me atheist or whatever are now all of a sudden like Bible waving, gun toting haters. And it's driving me nuts. I don't know when that dynamic switched, but I got through the door. I got on the other side and actually learned a lot about my faith and where I come from. And that happened to me. I met, we had a drag queen that worked with us, and she wouldn't talk to me. I have a Bible verse tattoo on my arm, and she wouldn't talk to me. And finally, one day, I was like, "Why do you avoid me?" And she told me about she was forced to go to conversion therapy
Mm.
and doesn't trust Christians, and was just very unloved by that portion of society. And it really broke me down and made me just think about loving people as a whole. And so I think that any kind of, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Hopefully you guys can see where I'm going with this, but
Yeah.
No, I
I
can.
hate I hate that I hate that like now I'm seeing the opposite of this kind of stuff where it's haunt family. Why does it care what color you are, or what your sexual preference is? And like those things shouldn't be ignored. They should be recognized. That's why if it was really family, I wouldn't ignore someone's skin color. I wouldn't ignore their sexual preference. Like it's part of that person. Why wouldn't I recognize that? It's rude. It's crushing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I think
not family.
No,
Yeah.
Sorry.
okay.
I think
That's
that
where I'm at on it.
I think that a lot of that too is a dawn on like accountability, because Jared and I have a somewhat two different places where this comes from, but like we both agree that the haunt family thing is kind of a double-edged sword, because a lot of the problematic behavior coming from the haunt community is guised by haunt family. That's my
Mhm.
haunt brother. I
That's
don't care what he did. I
Yeah.
don't care that he said this racist stuff. Like, you know, it
Right.
turns into a lot of that, and it really doesn't hold people accountable. And another thing that it does is this haunt family, which is a culture that you promote within your own haunted house,
Hmm.
also takes accountability away from management and owners. It lets people get away with horrible treatment for their actors because they're like, but this is my haunt family, I can't leave.
Mhm.
That's never the case.
Yeah.
There's no reason you should sit through a shitty haunt owner or a shitty haunt experience just because you feel like these people are your family. I don't vibe with that. I think if your experience is going south, there is a better experience out there. And whether it be, they're not your haunt family, or whether it be you're going to find a new haunt family that actually respects your work, respects what you do. Because, I mean, we can all be honest and say that not all haunters are as into it as we are, and we understand that. And the haunt family thing might work for them, but for us, we also see haunted houses as a business. It's our passion, it's our art. It
Mhm.
means a lot to us. So if we feel like our work isn't appreciated, or our work is getting undervalued, or we're doing things for free that we shouldn't, or we're not even getting a thank you, then that's not a family. I mean, we should definitely feel that way. So I
Yeah.
think that accountability is a huge part of haunt family that kind of gets looked over. I mean, because it gets treated at the end of the day just like it is like when someone's like, that's your blood, you should never go, back down from your blood, that's your family. Well, that doesn't work for everybody in real life and in haunts. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we are, and I don't know if there's a way to replace that sentiment.
Mhm.
I just think that we should have pride in what we do, and express ourselves like it's art. And I don't think the haunt family thing has an alternative or a way to describe it other than that. These are my
Yeah.
friends, so that is what it is.
And
Yeah.
there, thanks to Teddy for putting to words what I was trying to say. But I think there are places, I want to say there are places that we've seen this work too. Like there's a local haunt. That honestly, they're the nicest people that we know in the haunt industry, and they have a thing at their opening ceremony that's like, "Who are you?" And it's one of us, and they mean it. They're like the one haunt that means it, and they take care of people. So we've seen it work, but I just, like Teddy said, I hate how much it's being used to abuse things and
Yeah. And
the other
to,
parts.
to play to your earlier point, Jared, the haunt community does have that history of being home for misfits. And there
Mhm.
was a time, I mean, back, I would say, in the early days of haunting, maybe go back to the 70s and 80s, in which haunts, were the place for the gay kid or the black kid in the white neighborhood or whatever to find home and find friends and to be quote unquote accepted. But the bar for acceptance has changed. That's 40, 50 years ago now we're talking about. The world's moved on, and that is not acceptance. That is not love anymore. That is barely even allowing to exist, And you're absolutely right. That's something that the industry's got to move forward on. And also, I agree completely with Teddy's point that the haunt family has been used to cover up so much horrible stuff. I mean, we saw
Yeah.
this recently in the news. There was a
Mhm.
haunt, was one of the most successful haunts. I think it was Field of Screams. I think it was not paying their actors.
I don't know.
I don't remember which one
You
it
don't.
was. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't name a haunt if you
Sorry,
don't know which one it
I don't remember
is.
which haunt it was. But one of the big haunts was not paying its actors. It was the only one in the area.
Mhm.
And they were bullying and pressuring people into stay by saying, hey, we're a haunt family. What are you doing? And someone was even motivated to try and miss their dad's funeral
Yeah.
to come act in a haunt or something like that. It
Yeah,
was crazy.
it made the news, and
made
it
the
brought
news. It was
out
so
a lot
bad.
of ugliness that was happening in that haunt that the regular public doesn't get to see behind the curtain much,
Yeah.
because it's not all fun and games. I mean, I have never felt as lonely as I did at one of the haunts we worked at. We worked at it for multiple years, and I would often find myself just alone, and I didn't feel that family there.
No.
And part of the reason we started our home haunt is because we wanted to give a place for people, to feel included, to have a voice, to have, you know, be able to have say over what their characters are, what they do, and empower women in strong roles and things like that.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's so hard to find. Like, I just wish there was a place everybody had that they could fit in, and I almost wish that barrier had never been broken down for me. I think when it was the first time I became the director of a haunted house, and I snuck a look at the books and saw that we weren't getting paid, but that the haunt made $250,000 that year, and they also weren't putting any money into props. They weren't putting any money into new scenes or costumes, and I was like, "What the hell are we doing? Like, we're all being taken advantage of terribly."
We basically did everything out of pocket as actors to keep that production at a quality that we thought because of passion, and that's kind of why we have the outlook we have now. Is that haunted house?
Yeah, even with our home haunt, we make sure nobody spends money to act in our haunt.
Yeah. No.
We provide you transportation, we feed you, and we feed you not $5 gas station pizza. Ellie is our haunt mom, and she's a damn good cook, and she will cook her ass off for every single one of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, we take care of our actors better than a lot of pro haunts, which is sad.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't doubt it.
yeah, it always surprised me that one of the biggest haunts in our area and in the nation before they changed ownership did not pay. They had like 300 volunteer actors just because of the name of the place.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it.
And it's almost cult-like status in a way. It's kind
Yeah.
of...
I mean, yeah, they had a daycare in there, so I know exactly who you're talking about. So, yeah, there was a daycare in that haunted house. They were so dedicated to that. So, it's insane.
No. Yeah,
it
it's
reaches almost
crazy.
cult-like status. It gets...
Yeah, and even today, they, some of the actors who worked there who worked there in the past are still like, yeah, we worked there and we're big and bad because we were there. And it's like, I don't agree with that.
As we say in New Orleans, it ain't there no more.
Yeah.
So we've got to move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like I said, we've got about 5 to 10 minutes left here, so we got a little time left. But one of the things, like I said, we've been harping on building a better haunt community.
Yes.
And we've talked a lot around it, but what are some of your thoughts on how to build a better haunt community? I mean, one of the points that came up was, like we said, all across all the podcasts has been seating. Basically, your owners and managers, they're going to set the tone for everyone that works there, intentionally or unintentionally. But what thoughts do you guys have on this?
I'll go first because I tend to be a little bit more emotional than Teddy, so Teddy can lift us back up after my long-winded response. But I think it starts with one recognition that there's a problem. And I mean, I was there year one at the Haunters Hangout booth with Paul. I was at Teddy and I were both at haunts that were members, like signing members.
Oh, Haunters Against Hate.
Hunters Against Hate. Yeah. Sorry.
That's the Haunters Hangout had a booth?
No, Haunters Hangout. Sorry, Paul. But Haunters Against Hate. Fuck.
Bruh. Come on,
dude.
now.
Yeah, come on, man. I'm in my butt right now. But I think that we sitting there, I was like, holy crap, this is a problem, and I never expected to be. That was another moment. I was like, well, I mean, I know we get taken advantage of by haunt owners, but I didn't expect everybody to be bigots. And then, right? And then I was like, okay, we had these one guys out, but how big of an issue is this? And it took me 3 hours into day one of Transworld. I just went to sit at Paul's booth with him for a while and keep him company. And I saw somebody look and scoff. And I saw that again and again and again. And I was only there for like an hour and a half. And I was just like, nothing else needs to be said, that this booth needs to exist and that Paul needs to be doing this work right now. And I think that as soon as we can recognize that, the faster we'll be able to get to building our community back up. Right now,
Yeah.
I think, and I just want to say too, like, there's people are afraid of what they don't know,
Mhm.
and they're afraid of change. And I mean, if you go back and listen to Return of the Living podcast, I mean, I made awful jokes. I said awful things. Um, and back in that time, I don't even think I've said that. I'm being real hard on the sleeve right now, but I remember thinking that, well, Teddy's not like the other black guys. I like Teddy, and I don't think I've ever told him that, so that's why I made that face. But I remember thinking that, and it was a long road through Ferguson and all the other education that has been handed to me to get to where I finally am not afraid to say, Black Lives Matter, and feel that and empathize with people and where they're coming from in their plight. And I think the only way that all this bullcrap to say that the only way is through love. You just have to empathize with people from where they're coming from and love them, and try and teach them that love still exists. And maybe that's real corny, but I think that's how things change in the haunt industry too. We have to build each other up and love each other. And until we can do that and actually make a haunt family, nothing's going to change.
I agree 100%. I think that 2020 was a big whoopsie daisy for a lot of people, especially for the haunt industry, because we are a small but large community. Like, we have more eyes on each individual than probably most communities. We just all know each other. I know so many people from so many different haunts across the United States, and you know, I can say like one haunt out of every state is having like an issue that relates to some crazy race issue, sexuality issue, some type of bigoted mindset. And I think that it causes a huge divide. I've had more people that I had to delete from my Facebook than I could ever imagine. There are people that I've been friends with for years saying things that I was mind blown. I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. I didn't know that, you know, stuff like this happened, or I mean, I knew about my position as a person of color in the haunt industry was weird from the get-go, but I didn't realize that it was happening to so many other people, and that there's a huge divide in the haunt industry when it just comes to like the normal social stuff. Leaving all of the haunt stuff aside, we are a community of a lot of weird people with a lot of weird viewpoints, and coexisting like that is kind of hard. So the community, though not completely fractured, there are issues that need to be brought up to the forefront. And I think that the things that most will make that is just accountability, like I said before. I think that people need to be holding their owners accountable. I think people need to be holding their fellow actors accountable. I think that in some instances we need to treat it more like a business, and in some instances we need to treat it more like a passion. There are two different sides of the story, but I learned a lot from Brooke and Lexi from Svenpuss about that, and Japes as well, about how to conduct ourselves as business people as well as artists. And I don't think enough people have that mindset or have the information to act upon that, because for some of us it is a huge thing. I mean, you guys create a community in your haunted house full of what sounds like to me love and respect, and you guys do a fantastic job, but there's somebody 10 miles down the road that is just literally running slave labor. So and that's like a crazy thing to think about. Like, some of us have it, some of us don't, and I just think that we kind of need to find a common ground and get our shit together, because there are a lot of problems. So yeah. Other than that, free education. Everybody should be able to learn, and they should not have to pay a ton of money for it. I will scream that from the rooftops. Compensate your educators, but God, do not gatekeep information. I'll say that to everybody. There's no secrets in the haunted house industry, no matter how innovative and cool you are. Share your information if it's viable, and also support other artists in the haunt community. Another thing I think that causes a huge fracture, and I'll end on this one, is the fact that a lot of work gets stolen from artists very quickly too. I mean, gosh, it's like if Walmart and Kmart were right next to each other and they were just, oh, I see it, I'm making it. I think that should be supported. I think if you see an artist that makes something cool and original, you should get it from them. I do the same thing. I mean, if anybody knows who I am or who Jared is, we make our own costumes. We do a lot of fabrication, and we work really hard on that for really high impact, super aesthetic and catchy costumes. With that being said, I buy a piece from Svenpus every year. I buy a piece from my friend. Any of my friends that make stuff just because I want to support them, even though I know that some of this stuff I could make. I'm not going to. Why would I? So I think that's another big problem in the community too. And you can go to Haunter's Hangout for 5 minutes and you'll see someone bitching about it. So it's there. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I do the same thing with trying to support the local artist here.
Yeah. Well, guys, we got to wrap things up. We're almost out of time. Where the hell can we find you? Plug your stuff. Go crazy. Go have fun and plug where you guys are. We can find you guys.
Sure. You can find us at www.codeyellow.info. INFO. You can hear us on all major podcast outlets for all of our recorded stuff. Our Facebook page /Code Yellow Official. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything. You can find us all there. Shout out to Boston and Ray. Sorry we couldn't have you, but it was kind of last moment for us. So that is what it is. But they are our co-hosts. They are wells of knowledge as well. And feel free to reach out because we are always willing to chat haunted houses as long as you're not being an asshole. So there you go.
Definitely check out their stuff. And also, especially with the theme going on, I encourage everyone to check out the June 7th episode, which was it's identified as Return to the Living Podcast by the acronym, but it's a dish on racism, a great episode about building a better haunt community and trying to be better people in general, I think.
Yeah.
So it was a great episode, an important episode. So please, that fits so well with the theme we've been trying to stitch together here over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. Please check them out. They're absolutely wonderful podcast. On that note, everyone, thank you very much for joining us for the past hour. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's always nice to sit down and speak with like-minded haunters and just have this kind of chat. I appreciate it. This has been Haunt Weekly. You can find more Haunt Weekly at hauntweekly.com. Haunt Weekly on Facebook and Twitter. YouTube.com/hauntweekly is our YouTube channel. All the episodes are there. Like, literally all 270 are there. I know, YouTube just does it for us for free. It's crazy. We don't know why they agree to it. You can also find us at Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, all the podcast platforms. Just like the wonderful folks at Code Yellow, you can find them at those places too. So until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this has been Haunt Week up to 271, sitting down with Jared and Teddy from Code Yellow. Jared and Teddy, thank you so much for this wonderful chat. We will see everyone next week when we will not have a guest because we've got to do the news. It's 272, goddammit, divisible by 4. I did the maths. We'll see you then.